I had a pleasure of hearing a radio program of a gentleman named Alex Jones who tries to expose a lot of what's going on out there, the truth out there. And I thought, wow, this guy's coming out to talk about what's happening out there, about the loss of our constitutional rights, about loss of the individuality, and we've all been socialized into a big commune and a one world order control where the little guy is kind of lost in it. And he's talking about it. And as I said, folks, it's the bigger a fish you are, the more you're going to get hit, because they don't want you to come out and talk, because they want to silence you. And folks, truth cannot be silenced. Truth should not be silenced. And unfortunately, this person was maligned in the media as he told us, he spoke to the wrong person, and the wrong person, of course, made him look different than he is, made him look like a bad, bigoted, evil person. And unfortunately, the pressure came from members of family. We were told, perhaps I'm incorrect, but that's what we were told, not to be speaking about issues that matter. And we'd like to let him know, and let all of you know, folks, that we hope and pray for him that he regains his resolve to speak the truth and do and say what he knows is right in his heart. Because, folks, what are we here on this earth to do but to speak the truth from our hearts? And I know this man's heart is burning with passion and love. And he was However, Freedom Law School, in recognition of your bold stance and courageous exposure against corrupt church and government, recognizes you, Hutton Gibson, as a voice of faith and defender of freedom. Let's give a hand, everybody. And like I said, Hutton is not with us tonight, but he's with us in spirit, and we will send his plaque to him as a small token of our appreciation of the fact that he did take a stand for truth, and hopefully he'll choose to once again come out and make a difference like he already has made out there. The next person I'd like to recognize is truly like a grandfather to many of us. A kid doesn't get to know his grandfather very good because, he's been at it for so long, a whole different generation. Even though this man has been taking a bold stance for freedom and individual rights for a long, long time, many of us did not know him or did not have the opportunity to know him as well as we could, or perhaps we should. And that's why we invited this person to come to this rally and speak for us. Because this person truly, for a long time, since the 1950s, has been telling the truth, believing the cause of free press, telling the American people what's happening to them, and inviting them to take bold action to regain their rights, regain their freedoms. follow the Constitution. And folks, I hope we have him for a long time with us because, you know, when you get into your 80s, you're up there. And it's time that we recognize this gentleman for all the shots that he has taken. You know, people, especially because the organization like the Anti-Defamation League, supposedly a Jewish organization, folks, I was born and raised in a Jewish family, but they malign people like him as bigots. And that really saddens me. That really is heavy in my heart because, you know, folks, none of us is better than any other. I don't care if you claim you're Muslim, Jewish, Catholic, Mormon, born again, atheist, XYZ Buddhist. None of us is a group member before we're an individual. And each of our actions individually and how we behave is really what eventually counts for who we are, not the label that they put upon us. And no label, no misalignment that can be put on this man will stand for me because I know he's a real hero. And Freedom Law School, in recognition of your lifetime commitment to seek out and print the truth while promoting American people's rights and freedom, recognizes you, Willis Cardo, as the voice of freedom. Let's give him a hand, everybody.
Well, this is certainly unexpected, Tim, and I certainly appreciate it. But I would like to make one correction. You said some nasty things about the Anti-Defamation League, and the fact is that the Anti-Defamation League is the only media organization that's ever said anything about me in many years at all. But Payman, you're doing a wonderful job. And of course, you can count on the support of the American Free Press. We need all of us to stand together against this awful thing that we're trying to fight. You're doing it very effectively. I'd like to give you an award. Thank you.
Folks, I'd like to invite you, if you all would stand up and stretch a little bit if you like, okay, to do that, because I'm going to bring you two wonderful speakers, and you've been very patient with us after dinner, you know, and all that. If you'd like to go to the bathroom real quick, go, but come back, please, because we're going to bring in not one, but two speakers. Just move in place, stretch a little bit, don't go for too long, just come back. And folks, when we were going to have a banquet speakers for you, we thought long and hard as far as, well, if Hutton Gibson cannot make it, who should we bring? And so we thought, well, if we bring this speaker, these people might be happy and these other ones disappointed. And if we bring this speaker, these other ones will be perhaps disappointed, these other ones happy. So what should we do? Well, what we decided to do is bring both of these speakers for you. Okay, folks, you can have a seat now. Thank you very much. Close the doors in the back, okay? So we brought you both speakers. And the first speaker that we brought for you is someone who was supposed to be a speaker for us at the last Freedom Rally. However, due to some travel arrangement issues, she was not able to come and speak with us. It's a pleasure of mine that she was able to come at this trip. It was not planned. And she's a great expert in many areas, but the one area that I believe she totally excels at is on vaccines and what dangers they present to us. So, folks, what we've done, we have each of our speakers, we provide them half an hour to share with you about the subject at hand. So please help me. Give a warm hand of welcome to Ingri Cassel, your first speaker. Come on up, Ingri. Folks, if you'd like to speak, please take it outside, and please give her the respect to listen to her in peace. Thank you.
Thank you, Paymon. Paymon's done such a lovely job, and I was so gratified with all these awards. Thanks, Paymon. I do have to do a quick correction. He was so polite up here saying why I didn't make it last year, and I'm going to be really honest because I'm a Leo and I'm very honest. I did not come because Amtrak did call me, and I thought it was divine intervention. They said that there's been a problem with the train, and I could actually get a refund because the connection wasn't going to make it. So I thought, well, maybe that is divine intervention. We're getting ready to bomb Baghdad, and I am very anti-war, and I was pretty horrified at the whole thing and the red alert, and I bought into fear, and it's something I don't do anymore. I feel like what I am doing right now in the faith, in fact, I was really told off for not coming here last year by April Oakes, who's the director of the Autism Autoimmunity Project. She's one of our sister organizations, and she is the only autism organization out there that sees the vaccine connection with rising in neurological and developmental disorders. But anyhow, she's extremely strong, prayerful, faithful gal, and she always knows. She gets up in the morning and she asks God for guidance, and she never lets fear get her down. So she's been my inspiration ever since. So I just had to do that correction, Paybound, because it was fear that kept me from here last year, and I apologize. I want to just give a little bit of my background. My name is Ingri Cassel, and I happen to be the director of a national grassroots organization. I'm going to go ahead and lift this out. I can have a little mobility here. We founded our organization in 1998. Actually, what spurred the founding of it was I went to donate a book to our local library. I lived in Bonners Ferry, Idaho at the time. The book I donated is called Immunization, the Reality Behind the Myth. It happens to be a college textbook on the topic and was the inspiration behind Neil Z. Miller's book, Vaccines, Are They Really Safe and Effective? It was the inspiration behind Vera Scheibner, a very strong vaccine awareness advocate out of Australia who has written a bunch about shaken baby syndrome being related to vaccines. But anyhow, this book happened to be the inspiration of a lot of people that are very active in the vaccine awareness movement. The librarian refused to put it on the shelf. And I asked her why, and it's because she had bought into what I call the vaccine paradigm, and she didn't like to be told that she was wrong. So then I saw that censorship was very strong in America, especially since there wasn't one single book on vaccines. I found another case of censorship just this last month. I donated a videotape called Vaccines, What CDC Documents and Science Reveal. I, in fact, had a public showing at a library way back in June. And I was sending people to this library to get it checked out. They couldn't get it. I was wondering, why isn't it on the shelf? So I finally called. This is like 6 months later. I'm calling the library. I'm getting my secretary to call the library and saying, what is going on? This is a public donation. I'm having, I've sent a dozen people to you. They're frustrated because they can't afford the $25 it costs just to watch the video. The response I got was that we're waiting for a donation from the health department that has a different viewpoint. I said, but this is what CDC documents and science reveal. And I said, well, if the health district donated a videotape ahead of mine, would you be asking for public input? I mean, my gosh, what about fluoride? You have books pro-fluoride. We're fluoridating our kids with a mouth rinse in schools. Do you have any books against fluoride? I mean, are you seeking that kind of opinion in our public libraries? I mean, this is our tax dollars at work. Propaganda is more important than truthful information. And so I really challenge all of you to make sure that you challenge your libraries to carry truthful information. One book, I was really gratified in Washington. There was a book that I really wanted to make sure was on the shelf. It's called Vaccination, Social Violence, and Criminality, The Medical Assault on the American Brain. Shocking title. I use it all the time when I write letters to the editor. And I feel like it's a good wake-up call book. But good Washington State, at least they put it on the shelf right away. In fact, they purchased it. I didn't have to donate it. But, really check your libraries. I can easily go off on tangents, so I'm going to really try to cut to the chase. I am not really new to this movement. I was born and raised in it. Immunization, the Reality Behind the Myth happens to be my mother's book, so I'm very much, in fact, my mother is Walleen James, and she was the 75th member of the National Health Federation. How many people are aware of the National Health Federation? Okay, well, anyway, it's still alive and strong. It's one of the oldest health freedom organizations in the country, founded in Santa Monica. And she was very aware of issues of public health, under the guise of public health, of wanting to medicate us through our water supply. They never talk about vitamin C or putting calcium and magnesium in our water supply. It's things like fluoride, a waste product, or the idea of herd immunity through mass vaccinating us through, the just how many people are familiar with the ingredients in vaccines? I probably should just read off a few, because I'm not, really sure sometimes of my audience, and I feel like I'm in like a family of peers. And if I could just get a really quick show of hands, how many people are aware that vaccines are a questionable form of health care? Okay, so I'm talking to the choir somewhat. I really need to know that. I talked to a Rotary Club in Boise for 20 minutes, and I was pretty much booed out of there. So, so it's really nice to have a friendly audience. But anyhow, some of these vaccines that are so shocking to me are things like thimerosal. That's the big thing in the news now. I kind of call thimerosal, which is ethyl mercury. It's about 50% mercury, just like the amalgams in your teeth. I actually consider it a little bit of a red herring because there's so many other things that are wrong about vaccines. And when I go into it with people, I talk about what I call the vaccine paradigm, like that somehow when you take a poison into your system, you're going to build antibodies and it's going to make you healthier, even though these same ingredients you wouldn't put on a piece of toast and consume it. I mean, how many would put formaldehyde or phenol, which is carbolic acid, any of those kinds of things? You would never think of eating it. Why would you put it into your lymphatic system where it's not even censored by the liver or the tonsils? Where when you put these kind of poisons into your system that way, you basically skew I'm getting some water here, thank you. You basically skew what I call the censoring mechanism. Your body doesn't differentiate between self and not self, because your body naturally rejects poisons in the atmosphere. But if you screw that censoring mechanism up right when you're a little baby, I mean, nowadays, you're getting Hep B right when the child is born, before the liver is even producing bile on its own. It's really sick. In fact, Dr. Sherry Tenpenny says she could spend 8 hours just talking about Hep B, the disease and the vaccine, just 8 hours straight. There's so much on that and what we're doing to the future. Anyway, I wanted to just touch on a couple things. I actually have a little bit of an outline, and I wanted to mention how important our organization is in just networking vaccine information. We have chapters forming all over the country, and it's the only organization that is grassroots. And we work on mother-to-mother contact, doing letters to the editor, doing different types of outreach with information that's not, you're not going to necessarily get in the mainstream media. It's certainly not necessarily in a positive light. And we've made a huge difference in the 5 years that I've been in Idaho. We have, in eastern Washington and North Idaho, we have the lowest vaccination rates in the country. And I think that's a testimony to the work we've done. And in Wyoming, our next oldest chapter, they used to have 700 people. When they started, they had 700 people taking a religious exemption that went to the public schools there. This last year, it was admitted in an article, there were 3,000 people taking the religious exemption. That's in a 3-year period. So she's made a phenomenal difference, stopped legislation. She has support groups going on in Sheridan and Banner, Wyoming. But anyway, so, and it's not that much to start a support group. So I'm going to be plugging that, why it is so important. But what really capitalized me into propelling this movement forward in a more national way and kind of abandoning my local area was coming back from Freedom Drive 2002, where I had the pleasure of meeting Paymon. We came back, most people remember coming back to the states initiating a smallpox plan. How many people remember that time when their local people, they were having these emergency meetings and asked for volunteers to mass inoculate people, and there was all these kind of rumors going around? How many people remember that? Yeah, personally, I was horrified. And I found myself so horrified and then angry. I started getting on radio talk shows. I emailed all over the place. I mean, when I get going, I can really get going. But the two things that triggered my angst on the whole thing was when there was Paul, is it Paul Walter? Yeah, Paul Walter, he's with News and Views in Oregon. How many are from? Great job. Lots of patriots put their writing on there and on his website. But he called up Don and he said, wow, I was just talking to the local deputy sheriff, and he said that if I refuse to get the smallpox vaccine, he'll be forced to arrest me and put me in jail. And this is, someone he knows. And then I heard, actually there were 3 instances. Then I heard from our co-director's twin sister who works at a hospital in Spokane in the emergency room. And she just told her sister that everyone is going to get the smallpox shot. It doesn't matter if they have AIDS, they have a compromised immune system. It doesn't matter. Everyone is going to get the shot, or they will be jailed or sequestered or put in a concentration camp. I mean, believe me, our minds were going wild at the time. And if anyone's read the Model State Emergency Health Powers Act, how many people have even looked at that document? I want to see. If you have not looked at that, you need to go to our website, vaclib.org, because believe me, the Model State Emergency Health Powers Act has just been replaced with what the CDC calls the smallpox plan. And this is not just about smallpox, because, yeah, we still have 300 million doses of smallpox, one for every man, woman, and child, but the replacement of the whole smallpox plan is really that it could be, did I say replacement? That was not quite the right word. It is designed to be used for any public health emergency, any, quote, biological warfare attack, any disease that they manufacture. Believe me, it's set up for that. It's not just smallpox. And I want to tell you some of the horrifying things about some of this legislation that you really need to be a part of our network just to protect yourselves, because they pick off people that are isolated. When it comes to the smallpox plan that came down the pike, it was about 40 pages that went to every single state. Most states, when you asked for a copy of it, they said it's not available to the public. Tax dollars at work. They can't tell you, they can't show you. There's nothing in writing. Their plans to mass inoculate everyone in the state. And the reason they had to come up with this plan is that when the Model State Emergency Health Powers Act was introduced, only 50% of the states passed some semblance of it. And some legislators only meet every other year. So they decided to use the police powers that the CDC has. It's really one of the emergency powers that the president has too, totally bypassing the Constitution. And every state by December 1st of 2001, that was Freedom Drive 2002. Freedom Drive 2002. It was December 1st, 2002. Every state was to come up with their plan and send it to the CDC. I asked for it right away, and it took me until January to get reporter got a copy of that plan before I did. And I had requested it a month ago. I got it a couple days later. I called up the lady, and she faxed me a copy, and it just happened to be, I got it in the mail the next day. So I had 2 copies, a fax copy from a reporter. But you know, Idaho was the only state that made 34 pages available. Most people had a press release, and most of the 34 pages, that's also on our website. It's absolutely fascinating because, believe me, if you want to see what your state's health plan is, or smallpox emergency, whatever plan, I mean, they call it the smallpox, health plan or vaccine plan, but in every state, it's being enacted, and it's very similar to the protocol that the CDC sent down, because after all, these are all bureaucrats with zero legislative oversight. This is also what happened when I went to I testified last year in Idaho before the legislature over a law change, and I asked our senator, well, what was the legislative oversight with this? There's none. They actually are a law unto themselves. Public health, a law unto themselves. I'm really serious. It is that bad out there. And it's definitely a really serious situation when you don't have the right to own your body. The state even owns your children's bodies. I have some stories that are hitting me a lot right now, because what happens when you have an organization like ours, it's all volunteer, and people are desperate for information, you get horrifying stories all over the country of children being taken away for not following doctors' recommendations. Did anyone hear about the story in Utah of a woman who was having twins, and she decided she didn't want to have a cesarean? How many heard about this just recently? Do you think if she was in the doctor's hands and they lost a baby, that the doctor would go to prison for murder? Do you think this would ever happen? No, the doctors are God. They have total control over life and death, and no responsibility if they cause death. Zero. In fact, doctoring is the leading cause of death. There's been a lot of reports about this. How many people read the LA Times article, Stealth Merger? That was an incredible expose. Yeah, Don read it. We were copying it off and sending it an email out to everyone. I said it was an incredible 5-year investigation into the cozy relationship between the pharmaceutical industry and the National Institute of Health, and the billions of dollars that are, anyway. There's a lot of incredible news stories that are breaking right now, and in the face of this, the police powers are heating up, where doctors are reporting people to Child Protective Services, CPS, in record numbers. And it all seems to be right as the vaccine topic is heating up with the thimerosal and the vaccines. There's a class action going on. How many people are familiar with the class action going on regarding thimerosal? Well, anyway, I could go on and on with this stuff. There's a lot of details. We've been reporting it in the Idaho Observer at the expense of some other important stories. People say, well, why aren't you talking about property rights and more of the IRS stuff and more on this? I said, well, you know what? If we don't have a next generation of viable people to even squat on our property, what's it all for? What is it all for? I mean, this is really serious. You know, the CDC came out with an autism alarm, ALARM, and they had these incredible stats. Of course, there's no vaccine connection here, even though mercury toxicity parallels autism spectrum disorders in all the symptoms. In this autism alarm that went out to everyone, their statistics were 1 in 166 children now have autism spectrum disorder. Now, that's a shocking amount, but what was most shocking to me is the 1 in 6 figure. Right on this is right from the American Academy of Pediatrics. 1 in 6 have some kind of behavioral or neurological disorder. I'll tell you, the profession, if you want to get a government job or some kind of job like that, go into special ed. But personally, I choose to be with the unvaccinated kids. They're much more rewarding. That's one of the things we do. We're encouraging all our chapters to write up their stories comparing in their own family the difference between the vaccinated and the unvaccinated. And I talked to Paymon's wife, April. She said her oldest daughter had vaccines up to 6 months. She's the only one that ever gets sick in the family. And when she gets sick, oh, she's sick. Runs a fever of 103. She has to go through all these alarm and emergency measures. But the last two, and this beautiful Dahlia, oh my gosh, I'm not going to say it. Dahlia Ray. I was trying to think of Dahlia the flower. I know it's a beautiful name. Anyway, this latest kid, the eye contact, they're very alert. These kids that are coming in are so bright and so brilliant. They say the most amazing things, but they're all unvaccinated. The ones that are vaccinated, it seems to have affected them neurologically. I don't know what it is, but there is a clear, marked difference between a totally unvaccinated, undrugged kid and the ones that are vaccinated. And so, to me, that's one of the things that we're doing right now. We have a couple projects that is making sure people tell their stories. We want to collect as many of them as we can, but we're also going into truth and history of vaccines. How many people really believe? I mean, just be honest. This is just writ in the mind at large. That Columbus discovered America and vaccines wiped out smallpox and polio. How many people believe? I really need to know honestly, because if you believe that, raise your hand. Smallpox and polio were wiped out by vaccines. Okay, that's fine. I want to talk to you tomorrow. Please come by my booth. We don't have time for this, but it's been a scam from the very beginning. We need to get into truth and history. So one of the projects our whole organization is doing, we have 6 people on it, we're collecting historical documentation in books. We're putting them on CDs, and we're going to be selling them as a set and individually so that we can at least preserve this truth in history, so we don't need to carry on the lie that smallpox was wiped out by vaccines and polio was wiped out by vaccines. Believe me, it's a lie, and I have all the proof. And if someone doesn't get a chance to talk to me tomorrow, I would really encourage you to look on our website. We have a web servant called Dewey Duffel. I mean, it's such a cute name. Dewey Duffel. He's just the neatest guy. He looks like a little hobbit of a guy, and in his retirement years, he has devoted literally thousands of hours in developing our website. I mean, absolutely a blessing from God. In fact, BackLib, just when I took that first step to go out there and do this organization, it wasn't easy. I mean, a name like Vaccination Liberation, wow, that's pretty radical. But you know what? We've been absolutely blessed. I mean, the people that have come forward to support our cause, it's been literally amazing. This is an all-volunteer organization. And he has developed a smallpox index and a polio index, and it is considered the most comprehensive in the world, and researchers use it all the time. So please, you could spend literally days on just those 2 indexes. So I wanted to mention what I'm dealing with now that is so literally heart-wrenching, some of the stories. And it has to do with the latest version of SIDS. How many people know what SIDS is? Sudden infant death syndrome, right? Well, before, where they just couldn't explain the death, now it's SIDS. But now they're calling it shaken baby syndrome. I swear, it's God's honest truth. In Pennsylvania alone, there's 25 cases of shaken baby syndrome that are being prosecuted right now. And what it is that, and it's not just vaccines, and it's not just some parent freaking out when their kid gets vaccinated and they hear this high-pitched scream that goes on all through the night, and so the parent gets up and starts shaking their kid violently to death. No, it's not any of that. Just about every single one of these cases has to do with drug interactions from the mother. Many of these mothers are Rh negative, have taken Rogam, which is preserved with the thimerosal or ethyl mercury. So they're taking these Rogam shots. And then there could be taking antibiotics for a breast infection. That's real typical. In this one case that's with Alonzo Mendez, or anyhow, Alejandro. I'm sorry, I'm really not good with anything that's that it says a major cause of the Roman Empire's decline after 6 centuries of world dominance was its replacement of some aqueducts by lead pipes from the transport and supply of drinking water. Roman engineers, the best in the world, turned their fellow citizens into neurological cripples. Today, our own best and brightest, with the best of intentions, achieve the same end through childhood vaccination programs, yielding the modern scourges of hyperactivity, learning disabilities, autism, appetite disorders, and impulsive violence. So I'm definitely out of time, but it's been really a pleasure to be able to share this message. I want everyone to realize that the Child Abuse Prevention and Treatment Act that is a version in every single state is extremely serious. It gives the state the right to steal your children if you decide to do anything that the government thinks is unusual or out of the norm. We know someone who lost custody in Idaho. I was absolutely shocked when she refused a spinal tap that was absolutely unnecessary, and the state came out at force when she tried to change the law. Hospital administrators, all the bureaucrats with CPS. I was there when I was testifying before the legislature in Idaho. It was just another miracle that she testified for a bill change right after me. And she was alone. And there were over 30 people testifying against a bill justifying the state stealing your children for unnecessary medical procedures. So this is a very serious issue, and I want to just encourage you to please come and talk to me and get involved, because if you don't have the right to own your body and the state can come and inject poisons into your child or give him a spinal tap by force, we have much more serious problems than what I consider, taxes, war, stuff like that. I mean, this is like the viability of our progeny. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ingrid. I appreciate that. Our last speaker for the evening has been a speaker at the Freedom Rally before in the year 2000.